Welcome to That Entrepreneur Life, a podcast about entrepreneurship that takes you from idea to launch and beyond. Each week, your hosts, Andrew Lees and Clint McPherson, discuss different business topics aimed at adding value to any entrepreneur's journey.
Hey guys, welcome to That Entrepreneur Life. I'm Andrew Lees. I'm here with Clint McPherson.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Episode 5, right?
Yes, sir.
There we go.
Yeah, we got it. So today we're going to be talking about how to overcome challenges or how to overcome roadblocks with your business. And this is specifically appropriate, especially for me right now, because I've had to apply some of these practices we're going to talk about. Recently, I just came back from a trip.
Recently.
Yeah, as of like this morning and the last couple of days. So, what do you do when your business feels like it's about to come to a screeching halt, or it has come to a screeching halt, and you're like, oh, do I have a business, or are we going to keep going, or what's happening here?
What are we currently doing?
Yeah. What are we doing, and do we wait for people to other people to get their stuff together, or do we figure it out, plow through it or go around it somehow?
Yeah, man. I think that it's a valid point and it's a valid question, right? Like how to navigate roadblocks and challenges in your business, because you will face those on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're out there trying things, especially if you're working with other people,
Mm-hmm.
or relying on other people for you. Product-based type stuff, to where like manufacturing type stuff, that things have to be made, processes need to be implemented, and then when things start, the lack of communication, which we talked about in the previous episode, really communication is key, right? And so like for you, because you faced that recently, and we can talk about something that I face as well, but for you specifically, like what was that point to where you realized that you had to take action? Because as an entrepreneur, when your business or when you're faced with a problem, and it was like, where along that realm did you find out, like, dude, we have to do something now, or this could really affect, hey, our business? Because that, like you just said, do we still have a business?
Right. Yeah, because the business can be going along, you can be getting sales, and especially if you have a product-based business, you can be getting sales and something happens in your supply chain, and the logistics of getting your product made and delivered to your customers, anything goes wrong in that, everything just stops. So for me, it was about a week or two ago, and I was talking to my business partner up in Philadelphia, and so we work remotely. We work in different states, which has never been a better time to be able to do that. That's really cool that we can do that. We don't have to be, we don't have to be working physically together all the time. But when you're making a physical product, there's things that need to be done together at some point. You've got to. I've flown up to Philly a bunch of times over the last few years, and when we need to pack up, when we get a bunch of parts in for the business. So actually, let me take a step back, because I feel like people are like, what is the business? What is the product? What the heck are you guys talking about? So I own a business called Grassracks, all one word, and it is bamboo. They're bamboo and birch rack display and storage racks for boards, bikes, skis, and even kayaks. And some of them hang up on the wall, some of them are freestanding, and so we've been building that for a few years, and gaining a lot of traction in the different niche markets of like surfing, snowboarding, skiing, cycling, and skateboarding. And so, we've been kind of grinding away at that, and building some presence on social media, and doing all our digital marketing stuff and growing that demand. So that's been great. But what we ran into recently over the holidays were that we had a bottleneck in our manufacturing process, and the holidays hit us hard in a good way because we had more orders this holiday season than ever, and we just had our best February of that we've ever had. And usually, especially in e-commerce, January, February tend to be a little slow because December is just, people are tired of spending money, so they're like, they're taking out a second mortgage to pay for all their Christmas gifts. So they're like,
I just dropped grands on Christmas. I'm gonna take a chill pill when it comes to January, February, man. Hit the reset button.
Exactly. So not as much discretionary income, and they're not necessarily buying products, especially premium products like the ones that we have. We're a higher end product in our market. There's junky racks out there you can buy, with plastic. They're plastic, foam, and metal that are half the cost maybe, and they fall apart. They're easy to, or they're difficult to assemble. They're difficult to mount to the wall. I've literally heard stories of people buying other products and they fall off the wall. Which is like, that can't happen. That's not safe.
Yeah. Not at all.
So a couple weeks ago, we've been trying to get through the holiday season, and our finally kind of came up for air, but we had the issue where our manufacturing still wasn't catching up to where, we had just been wiped out. We had to tell a lot of customers that, hey, thank you for your order. Are you going to be patient enough to wait for us to get another production run ready for you? So, and a lot of them have been awesome, and they didn't care that we took a little more time.
Right.
But we work with a couple of manufacturing partners, and one of them was just not communicating with us.
Right.
And we weren't sure where they stood with our run. They were with our production runs. They're a relatively new. We have a couple partners we work with, and they're relatively new, and they were talking about increasing the cost, and which we can't have too much of that because we don't have an enormous amount of margin to work with. So, and they were just running into all these issues, and so we're like, all right, if we don't figure this out, we literally don't have a business,
Yeah.
And and we have the capability of making some parts ourselves in house, but not as much on a production level and as efficiently as our manufacturing partners do. So anyway, a week or two ago, I was talking to my business partner Evan, and he's like, man, you got to come up here. We gotta pack up some of the inventory we already have, and he needed help with that. And then also we just had to literally just sit down. We just called up this manufacturer. We went over to him, and we just all sat down and figured it out. And before that, before we actually met with them, we just weren't sure whether. We were trying to figure out all the what ifs, all the contingencies. Are we going to have to try and find somebody else to work with? And, that's a hassle. We're probably going to run into the same issues we're running into now with somebody else.
Right.
So, we really, and what it came down to was compromising on some things. They had issues with a few of the features that we have in our products, and they didn't realize that we were flexible enough to say, if that's,
so let those go.
Right. To let them go, to modify them, which doesn't change the functionality or the integrity of our product whatsoever.
Yeah.
But they were afraid to make any changes and just didn't communicate with us.
Right.
And that communication is so critical with your vendors, with a product, especially because you've got to be able to talk about any snags, any issues, delays with getting product. So So we really had to, instead of just, for a few months, we had tried to push through the problem, make this, make these parts to our specs for our pricing.
Right.
We have to hit these target costs. We have to do it this certain way. And we were willing to be flexible on some things, but we didn't know what the issues were.
Right.
And we tried to figure out what the issues were. They didn't let us know. So finally, we're like, all right, we can't push through this anymore. We got to get to the root cause of the problems.
Definitely.
And then work around them. And so that's sometimes, what you have to do.
Without a doubt, I think it's good that, obviously it's not good that you had to go through that process or had to sidestep that hurdle, jump over it instead of going through it, right? I mean, when you're running hurdles, you want to jump instead of having to keep hitting the hurdle every time, right? Slows you down.
Yeah.
And so when a company is not communicating with you, that is making your product, manufacturing your product, or having little problems with your product, it really puts, production down to a crawl, right? To where, like you said, you got down to the point of not knowing it's like, hey, do we still have a business? And so, but the good thing from that is, like, you took action, right? You and Evan, even though you go down there from time to time, you took action. You showed up on the front doorstep, or let them know, like, not even that much in advance. You're just like, we're here. Yeah. Let's meet type thing. And that right there is showing, like, entrepreneurship at its finest, taking action, not settling for, hey, they might suck at communication, right? You've identified that problem, but you showed up and you worked through it. And again, I'm not saying, like you said, I think we talked offline about this, that their communication might not improve, but a lot of the stuff that slowed you down at this point in time has been worked out. You were able to, modify the product, do what you need to do to help us move through this, right? And it makes sense. You're able to compromise. Yeah. But they could have known that, or they could have communicated with you through your email outreach and everything, phone calls or whatever you try to do before you had to show up on the front door. Yeah. It's like, this could have been a smooth process, right? Yeah. And so even though we're entrepreneurs, right, somebody on the other end is an entrepreneur themselves as well. Right. Right. To where it's like,
they get their own struggles or trying to figure things out.
Right. But if they're not communicating, which goes back to one of our previous episodes, right? It's like, you have to do that.
You don't know that.
Yeah. Exactly. And you don't know that. But you taking action, you and your business partner showing up on their front door, basically working through that, man. That right there is awesome and a great story. And that's why I really thought we had to tell it today on this episode, because it definitely shows, don't be afraid to take action. One, you don't know what they're going through. Two, sit down with them, right? Because things could get lost in translation through emails. People might not respond to your emails. People they might not answer your phone calls. Yeah. Right. And so that's a challenge in itself. And then when you're relying on people, whether they're part of your team, like for me in digital marketing, communication is key, right? I got to stick to deadlines. There are hurdles I got to jump over all the time, or roadblocks I encounter all the time. As far as, when I first started out in this game, website projects were a huge thing for me, right? We get everything lined up. Yes. Okay. We have a 20-page website. I got all the content. I got all the photos. I got everything that needs to be that is needed for us to start this project from the client. Right. Okay.
But that's not it.
That's not it.
That's not it forever.
No, not it. Right. But it's enough for us to get started. Right. Until we hit another roadblock. But when something comes up, like a page that we were just thinking about, or something, oh man, I didn't quote them on this. I'm able to go back to them if you communicate with them properly, right? Instead of hitting them with a big old, okay, here you go, I added 5 more pages, pay me, right? Like,
right.
No,
like, what? How did that?
Exactly. Like,
how do we get to?
Like for your production, right? Yeah. Like if they would have continued to do what they were going to do, they were going to double your fees or whatever. Exactly. And it's like, and that's absolutely not.
And that would be working through it instead of around it, right? And and just figuring out, like, all right, we can't mess around with this forever. Right. We can't just pound our heads against the wall and do the same thing over and over and over again and expect different results. So, we got to work around it. We got to, we got to compromise in, in some way.
Yeah.
Like when I'm doing a design, I'm sure it happens with you too. When I'm working on some product development, I'm working through a design, and I have an issue with my design software where it won't let me do something a certain way. Usually there's a few different ways of doing something.
Yeah.
But like for whatever reason, it's glitching out or whatever. And
Buggy right now, right?
Yeah. There's some, it's like like CAD software can be kind of like a video game sometimes because it's it just, there's certain things where you're like, this should definitely work. There's no reason why this can't be done, but it glitches out and you can't get it to work. And you could call tech support and try to get them to help you out and maybe open up a support ticket. And then like 5 months later, they might get back to you.
Yeah.
Or it's just like you figure out a workaround. You get the same result with a different procedure. And it works, and you've gotten through that issue a lot faster because you just can't be waiting around for on other people to dictate
exactly
your business, So back to the manufacturing thing, we couldn't wait for this manufacturing partner to just do the right thing, and do it the way that we were expecting it to be done. We had to really step in and help control that as much as possible. And it wasn't like going in there and making a bunch of demands. It was actually the complete opposite of that. It was going in there and listening to the issues.
Exactly. That's very important. Listening is what needs to happen a lot. And typically when a new client comes to me, or a potential client asks me a question, right? Or they want a service. I initially want to know why they need it, right? Did they watch a YouTube video? Mm-hmm. Did they watch like a Miles Beckler and like, oh, I need this? Or somebody that's
they get very excited.
Yes, exactly. They think they need that, right? It's almost like when people come to me and say, I need SEO, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, why do you need SEO? Everybody needs SEO.
Do you know what SEO is?
Yeah, it's like, do you even know what it stands for, right? Let's start there. And if you do, I'm not trying to insult your intelligence, but have you done this? Have you done on page on your website? And then once you fix the stuff on your website, then it's good to focus off your website, right? Mm-hmm. And trying to get all that stuff to mirror each other and create content and all that stuff. But when somebody comes to you, it was funny because I did have a local client, and one of my first clients, she's not here no more. She moved up north. But whenever she came to me, her first thing is like, I need help. And I'm like, okay, I'm here, right? Yeah. I'm here to help. I need SEO. And I'm like, okay, you need SEO. Do you have a website? Let's start there. Yes, I have a website. Okay, let me look at your website. Let me look at the pages and how everything's structured, how everything's built out. Have you actually implemented like meta descriptions and meta tags and all this other stuff that she had no idea about, right? That kind of goes over the customer's head, and that's fine. But I'm there to educate them and say, look, before we go into any of the off-page SEO or local citations, which you're probably referring to as SEO, right? Let's get down to the root of the problem and what you really want to accomplish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And then when I sit down with them, I'm able to hear them, listen to their problems and what they want to actually accomplish, mm-hmm. right? What their vision is for their business. And if you don't sit there and do that, you lose sight of everything. Right?
Then it's just another transaction for your business. It's just it's just like churning them through without really paying attention to what you're doing. And then people aren't going to be very happy with that.
Not at all. I mean, at the end of the day, whenever they don't know what they don't know, I don't fault them for that. Mm-hmm. Right. But those are hurdles that I face daily of clients or business owners not knowing what they don't know. And those are waters that I have to navigate on a regular basis and talking about educating clients, right? It's things that, look, I spend a lot of my time educating people on what they actually need first before they get to this area or mm-hmm. before they dabble in this. And I mean, I was like, look, if that's what you want and that's all you want, we can do that. Maybe not the most effective approach, if you want me to take your money, I'll take your money, right? And
Right.
I'll accomplish this.
Yeah, you will do
I will
the
do
job
that. Exactly.
for the money. Yeah.
But if you don't want to take my recommendations and stuff, that's cool too. But I'm going to first recommend, after listening to what you have or what you want to accomplish, and just listening to you is very important, right? If they're having, right, listening to the challenges that they face with somebody they worked with before, making sure I don't repeat that type of stuff, right?
Right.
And it's good for maybe the manufacturing client to say, hey, this is what we thought you were going to be like so and so down the street.
Yeah.
And not take any, like have any flexibility in this type of stuff.
Yeah, that's what they thought.
But then you sit down with them and you're like, bro, if that was holding us up, get rid of it.
Yeah. And by the end of it, everybody was happy. They were talking about, oh man, we, the owner of the company was his, I think he said his son is a big surfer, and he's like, oh man, we got to get him a rack. And we said, oh, yeah, absolutely. We'll hook you guys up with a rack. I mean, that would be great. So it just went from like kind of high tensions to just everybody was completely on the same page. But if we had gone in there, and we had started making demands,
guns
we would
blazing,
have shut it down.
Right.
And, and it would have been more critical. It was more critical for us to make sure the meeting went well than them, even, because they've got other clients.
Yeah.
We're long term, we're going to do really well for them, I think, and then we're all going to make some good money together. But short term, they're thinking, well, you're just another client. We don't need you today.
Right.
So, you better be cool.
But it was good that you realized that.
Yeah.
Too, right? Like, I'm sure, like any of us, we can get hot-headed. We can make not the best decisions as far as approaching things.
Oh, yeah.
But when you sit back and think about it, like, hey, you could have went in there and started demanding a lot of things. How far would that have got you, right? Like, would they have just crawled in their shell and just were like, okay, right? And it was like, you really didn't accomplish anything, right?
Right.
You thought their communication was bad before. How's it going to be now?
Yeah.
Right? It's
like, if at all, if they're not just
if they say, okay, we'll
see you
later. Right. Exactly. So you said, you could have shut it down. Like, you went in there, started demanding all this stuff, and they were like, okay, we really don't need you, bro. Mm-hmm. or crawl in the shell and like, yeah, we'll still take their money from time to time, but do it on our own terms. Mm-hmm. And then you're still like, hey, do we have a business? Right. Yeah. It wouldn't have done any good for you or him. And so I'm glad, again, it's a perfect example, one, of taking action, but doing it the right way. Yeah. Going up there, hey, you were already going to be up there conveniently, moving some merchandise or products. And then I was like, okay, let's go meet these guys and let's iron this problem out. Right. In person. The best method and recommended method, right?
Right.
Yeah, if you could do it in person, that's the best way to do it. But when you're here in North Carolina compared to Philadelphia or whatever, where you have to travel, it's not always convenient to be in Philadelphia when you live in North Carolina, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so what sense does it make? Please, if anybody else is listening, anybody that works with me and Andrew going forward in any type of endeavor, just communicate with us, right? I mean, it could be in person, which we recommend, but if it's not, like if you're not a local client or a local manufacturer or a local person, like just communicate. We have cell phones, we have emails, but respond, right? I mean, that's really when it comes down to it. Respond to us, it'd be great.
That's it, yeah. And we both have clients all over the country, and so, not meeting in person all the time is no problem. We can do that, and it works out great. But yeah, if there are ever any issues with your business and you just don't know how to get through or around something, it's good to just take a step back, consider all the options, consider all the scenarios, try and play out the different scenarios, and just don't freak out about it, because there are always options, right? But just good to weigh all those options and then act accordingly, and just be who you are and represent your business the way you want to, and people will respond to that too. People will just be cool with people, listen. And if you listen a lot and, don't get hot-headed or overreact to anything, that'll definitely go a long way.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I encounter a lot of those issues to where it's like, I'm so frustrated right now. Like the way I want to act is not the way I should act.
Oh yeah.
But I want to, right? Like
Yeah.
I have the urge to like set the tone, but then it's like, okay, then they might not ever. Is it the right time to do that? Because there sometimes there is, but you got to look at it from each angle and say, okay, play out the outcome, right? Like, is it worth losing this person?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it losing this one contractor that I've teamed up with, or is it worth losing a client that whatever I tell them, they're not listening?
Yeah.
Right? Or do I need to show them? Are they a client that can take the tough love? Right? You can know that type of stuff before you go into the fight. Right?
That's a good point too. Everybody responds different. Everybody kind of need to communicate with everybody a little bit differently. Trying to force your style on other people won't work. You have to figure out what works, what's there. In relationships, it's like people have, I've heard it called love languages, and how they interact with their, and it helps, partners understand how to communicate with each other. It's kind of like that in business too. Is figure out with all the people that you work with, like what are how do they all communicate, and then communicate with them in that way. Some people thrive on tough love.
Yeah.
They need that. They need they don't want you to dance around anything.
Right.
They just want you to come right out, get to the point. Even if you sound harsh and super critical, they're like, cool, I'm good with that. I can adjust from there. And some people that it just rubs them the wrong way, and they'll they get offended and walk away, or defensive, and you just they just shut down. So knowing who you're talking to and figuring out how to talk to them that's also super helpful.
Yeah, like you said, it's just knowing your audience in that specific time, and it will help you navigate those roadblocks.
Mm-hmm.
And any of those hurdles that you come across. Because, man, like when I was in the military, there was a lot of times when I would have to ask. I was never the yes man. I would never say, Roger, sir, right? Like if I couldn't buy into something, I would always ask a question.
Yeah.
If it didn't make sense to me, or if it wasn't common sense type stuff, I would always be the guy that was like, why? Why, sir? Like, can you explain it to me? Not that I'm not going to do it like you want me to do it, but is it the most efficient way to do it?
Yeah.
Right? So it's almost like when I would approach that, it was almost me basically saying permission to speak freely, sir, type thing, to where it's like, he's not going to take offense to what I said because I'm saying it. I just asked for permission to speak freely. Same way with clients, right? You get to know. I have a couple of guys that are trying to franchise a restaurant. Mm-hmm. I can be more honest and open. Too. Yeah, great. Yeah, if you haven't been to Gooey's, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
So my thing is, they're trying to franchise a store, and so they're two businessmen that I can speak freely around, right? Because I've built that relationship to where I can be blunt. I can be honest with them. I don't have to hold back if I don't want to. There's been times where we've basically, talked to each other. Probably not the nicest, but just because we know we can do that, because I'm not going to take offense to it. I'm a grown-ass man. I know they're the same way, right? But some people, you can't come at them that way, right? I'm not just going to see them and jump on them, right? And be like, rah, rah, rah. But it's like, John, let's talk about this, right? Or Bob, let's do this, right? Or Teddy, like, let's think about this, right? Like, and then I can really talk to them and say, no, absolutely not.
Maybe not the best idea. Right, this is why. Yeah,
exactly.
This is where I'm coming from.
Right, and they value my opinion because they understand that what I bring to the table is valuable. And once somebody outside of you sees the value in what you're putting out or bringing in, it helps you navigate those roadblocks a lot easier. Right, the communication, the just coming at them and letting them know, like, here, I'm here to help. And again, that's why we're doing this podcast, is to add value to any entrepreneur's journey and just to give them advice and nuggets of some of the things like real world encounters of like this weekend in Philadelphia,
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
and cool stuff like that is just something that we're just going to share anytime something like that happens, because it's just, I really think it's valuable information and nuggets that you can take away and actually incorporate yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and the entrepreneur's journey is sometimes not super exciting, like,
Oh, without a doubt.
the things we do every day aren't necessarily noteworthy all the time. We're gonna have plenty of days where it's like there's not too much need to talk about what happened, today, because
Exactly.
it's pretty boring. But there's definitely noteworthy times. There's things that happen along the way that we're like, this needs to be. We need to talk about this. This needs to be told. This is a frustration, or this is this is a setback, or this is a triumph that we want to talk about and share. And then we also want to hear what you guys what your setbacks and triumphs and questions are. So
Right.
definitely let us know, and we're going to start answering questions on each episode.
Yeah.
And before we really get into it, so we definitely want to hear what you guys think of the show, what you want to know from us, what you want us to discuss. We love that feedback, because we're all in this together. We're behind the mic, but we're all in this entrepreneurial journey together. So
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think what the action or the challenge that we should probably push out to them before we end this episode, man, is to, hey, if you're facing a roadblock or those hurdles, how are you taking action? Like Andrew did this past weekend and his business partner, which is huge, right? Because that communication gap has lessened.
mm-hmm.
Now the process is moving forward more and better and more efficiently, hopefully.
Yeah.
And then going forward, it's like, but the challenge should basically be, to take action.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let that problem, or like you were doing, was trying to push through the problem.
Yeah.
Right? You identify the problem and you knew it was a problem, but y'all kept trying to push through it and try to work with it.
Right.
Right? So the challenge should be basically, identify the problem, take action, but also encounter it from the angle that you did and look at it from every angle and how it can possibly play out to be to the most benefit of everybody involved. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah, just figure out what the challenge is. Be analytical about it. Try and separate your emotion from it too. That was another thing. Like if we were maybe a few years ago, or maybe when we had just started the business, if this had happened, would have been like super nervous going into this meeting, and
Right.
we would have been a little more emotional about it. But now it's to the point where we're just like, it's just business. There's options, and we're gonna take certain actions based on what our options are, and then adjust, and then keep adjusting and taking more action, and so until we've worked around the problem. So yeah, I think that's a good challenge.
Yeah, man, without a doubt. I think that's a wrap for episode 5, man.
Yep.
So
don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. Check us out on, I think we're going to get up on YouTube pretty soon. So subscribe to that. We're up on a bunch of different podcast platforms now. So please subscribe, share, if you like what you're hearing, and don't forget to leave us some questions that we can answer on the show.
Yeah, some feedback. And so really what it comes down to from what Andrew just mentioned is really just going to thatentrepreneuriallife.com to where you can find all of that, right? Under places where to listen. We have everything listed from, Apple Podcasts to YouTube to every platform we're currently on. The cool thing about Buzzsprout is what we're currently using as our hosting is basically you can go in there and share it or listen to it on any platform you want to. And so that's a powerful part of what we've incorporated into our podcast. And so just like you said, like, share, comment, and give us some feedback, guys. Ask us some challenging questions, because it's going to be awesome for me and him to sit here and look at them and starting to get these questions from each and every one of you to where we're actually able to answer it specifically. And then when we start bringing on guests, you know, maybe even have them sharing to it too as well, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, we got a question from Susie today from North Carolina, and she wants to know this, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is your take on that, right? So you're just not just hearing from me and Andrew, but you're hearing from the guys we bring on the show too. So I think that'll be a cool angle we can take from it, guys.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, like I said, it's a wrap. We appreciate you joining in.
Yeah. Until next time, That Entrepreneur Life with Andrew Lees and Clint McPherson.
Thanks for listening to That Entrepreneur Life podcast. Be sure to visit thatentrepreneurlife.com to join the conversation, access our show notes, and discover our fantastic bonus content. Don't forget to join us next week for another episode as we continue to add value. Until next time.